On this Friday's early edition at 6, the mood on the Korean peninsula has been peaceful recently, with family reunions setting the foundation. But the North's firing of 4 missiles throw things in doubt. The South's defense ministry says the move was timed to hinder Seoul's annual joint military drills with the U.S. On the final day of this month's extraordinary session, Korean lawmakers passed a series of key livelihood bills, but they are unable to overcome their differences on a revised pension system. And China refuses to sit idly by when Japan continues to highlight their side of historical and territorial arguments. In a show of China's determined stance, the government designates 2 national days that highlight Japan's wartime aggressions. Stay tuned for these stories and more.
It is 1 a.m. in Los Angeles, 11 a.m. in Kiev, and 6 on a Friday evening here in Seoul. Welcome to Early Edition at 6. I'm Kim Hyun-ji.
And I'm Daniel Chan. Thank you for joining us. We begin some predictable and unpredictable action from North Korea.
Inter-Korean relations seem to be heading back on the right track, as in with the success of the 2 rounds of reunions for war-separated families that ended early this week.
But on Thursday evening, Pyongyang launched 4 short-range Scud missiles into the East Sea. Our Hyun-bin starts us off.
The South Korean Defense Ministry said Friday that North Korea's latest missile launch seems to have been planned to coincide with the start of Seoul's annual military drills with Washington. The ministry said the North had fired 4 projectiles, which, considering their speed and direction, are presumed to have been short-range Scud missiles. This is the North's first Scud missile launch in 5 years. The launch also follows an incursion by a patrol boat over the de facto maritime border between the 2 countries on Monday, which the Seoul's defense minister said at that time was sent to test the South Korean military. The ministry said the South Korean military is prepared for any provocations from the North. Just hours before the launch, Seoul had proposed a round of Red Cross talks to resolve humanitarian issues, including reunion for families separated by the Korean War. Seoul's unification ministry said on Friday that it is looking to see if the launch would affect inter-Korean relations and the talks that are expected to be held as early as next week. On top of that, a private organization had recently offered to send supplies and food aid to the North, worth nearly $180,000 US. With the recent improvement of inter-Korean relations, some experts believe the North executed the launch to gain some leverage during negotiations between the 2 Koreas. Other experts believe that this was a protest against the strong condemnation of the North's nuclear program and human rights violations by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. Either way, the South Korean government is keeping a close eye on the situation and plans to set up countermeasures against future provocations. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
South Korea's unification ministry says North Korea has so far refused to accept a message regarding a South Korean missionary who has been detained by the North since October. The ministry said it tried on Friday afternoon to send a message urging Pyongyang to release Kim Jong-un and to ensure his safety until repatriation. North Korea released video footage Thursday of a press conference in which Kim claimed to be a South Korean spy. Kim said he entered North Korea 4 months ago with the aim of building an underground church in the North Korean capital.
The United Nations World Food Program reportedly provided North Korea with some $3 million worth of emergency food aid earlier this month. Washington-based Radio Free Asia reports that the UN Food Agency supplied emergency assistance for children and pregnant women in the North due to a drop in donations from the international community. The UN body is currently trying to collect $200 million earmarked for the 2 groups in the North by 2015, but has only collected around $25 million so far. It estimates that 84% of all North Korean households have borderline or poor food consumption. China sends a strong message to Japan over its recent historical and territorial claims, designating 2 national days that highlight the wrongs committed by Japan during World War II.
For more on China saying that 2 can play this game, we turn to our Park Ji-won.
amid continued tensions in Northeast Asia over historical and territorial issues. China's Standing Committee of the National People's Congress has designated 2 national days to highlight Japanese aggressions during the Second World War. The Chinese government singled out September 3rd as Victory Day in the war against Japanese aggression to coincide with Japan's surrender to the Allied forces in the Second World War on September 2nd, 1945. China also designated December 13th as the day to remember victims of the Nanjing Massacre. Japanese forces captured the Chinese city of Nanjing on December 13, 1937, and for a 6-week period carried out crimes against humanity on the city's citizens. The estimated number of people killed by Japanese troops during the incident ranges from 40,000 to over 300,000. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said the days show the Chinese government is determined about its national sovereignty, territorial stability, and its opposition against any aggressive wars. It also sends a strong message to Japan that any attempts to challenge the post-Second World War order by denying the nature of Japanese aggressions will never be tolerated. The ministry also warned about the resurgence of Japanese militarism and called for Japanese leaders to take a responsible approach toward the matters of history. Meanwhile, Japanese Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga said Friday that the government will be setting up a special investigative team to re-examine the 1993 Kono Statement, which apologized to sex slaves during the Second World War and acknowledged that Japanese forces were responsible. Despite criticisms within Japan, such as from former Prime Minister Tomichi Murayama, that such a re-examination will rile up neighboring countries like South Korea, the Japanese government has apparently decided to move ahead with the plans. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Former Japanese Prime Minister Tomichi Murayama says Tokyo should get rid of plans to revise its landmark apology for forcing women to work as sex slaves for its military during World War II. When asked about the Abe government's recent remarks on reconsidering the 1993 Kono Statement, Murayama said reopening the case would do nothing but offend Koreans. Murayama had apologized for Japan's wartime atrocities during his premiership as the first socialist prime minister in nearly 50 years. Lawmakers in the National Assembly passed a series of long-pending bills as this month's extraordinary session wrapped up today.
But some ideas they had to meet halfway because they remain divided on a controversial revision to the nation's pension system. Our National Assembly correspondent Kim Young-gil has the details.
Lawmakers in the National Assembly passed a series of key livelihood bills on Friday, the last day of this month's extraordinary session. Among the bills passed was a revision to the Personal Information Protection Act, which requires financial institutions and public organizations to encrypt a client's 13-digit identification number when storing them in a database.
The Parliamentary Security Committee has thoroughly revised this bill to fully protect our citizens, and the specifics will be written into a presidential decree.
The change was made in response to a massive data leak last month affecting some 20 million card holders at 3 credit card firms and millions more clients at financial institutions in the months prior to that. Lawmakers also passed a bill that will allow the parliament to more swiftly appoint an independent counsel for investigations into an array of sensitive crimes ranging from corruption to wrongdoing by government agencies. The bill creates a parliamentary standing committee that will be responsible for making the independent counsel appointments. In the past, a new committee was created for each new appointment.
The standing committee for appointing independent counselors will consist of 7 government officials.
The bill also allows the formation of a special investigative body charged with monitoring the relatives of the president or senior Blue House members in order to prevent ethical breaches. Lawmakers, however, will not be subject to surveillance. The rival parties were unable to overcome their differences on whether to link the basic pension scheme to the national pension system. That means they failed to put up a vote on a bill that would offer a monthly pension to senior citizens over the age of 65 in the bottom 70% of the income bracket. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
We shift our focus to some important numbers here in the nation. Industrial output in Korea's mining and manufacturing industries continued to expand in January. It marks the fourth straight month of gains. January's 0.1% growth has declined sharply from the previous month, and this is largely because there were fewer workdays due to the Lunar New Year holiday. Statistics Korea says the growth of overall industrial output inched up to 1% range in January, suggesting the domestic economy may be recovering. Spending jumped to a 34-month high of 2.4% due to an increase in sales of food and automobiles during the New Year holiday.
With the number of Koreans traveling overseas reaching new heights, it only makes sense that they'd be spending more money in foreign countries, and many of them are selecting to put their expenses on their credit cards. The Bank of Korea says Korean nationals charged a record $10.5 billion in overseas last year, up 12% from 2012. The central bank attributed the growth to the Korean won strengthening against the U.S. dollar and an increased number of foreign travelers. Some 15 million Koreans had their passports stamped last year, an increase of 8% on year. Turning now to the latest in crisis-hit Ukraine, where armed men have seized the regional parliament in a mainly ethnic Russian region.
The United States is urging Russia to show in the coming days that it's sincere about its promise not to intervene in Ukraine. Our Hyun-bin has the details.
As many as 50 armed men seized a regional government headquarters in Crimea on Thursday and raised a Russian flag. The region provides a base for the Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Ukraine's new rulers in Kiev have warned that any movement by Russian forces beyond the base's territory would be tantamount to aggression. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov moved to assure U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry that Russia will respect Ukraine's territory. In response, the U.S. told Russia to show it's sincere about its promise. Washington is concerned after Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered a surprise military exercise on Ukraine's doorstep this week. Other Western nations like Britain and Germany are also calling on Russia to help ease the turmoil in Ukraine's Russian-dominated region. Also Thursday, the new Ukrainian government held its first cabinet meeting, led by newly appointed Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk. In the meantime, ouster President Viktor Yanukovych is said to be in Russia, as Russian state news agencies reported he plans to hold a news conference on Friday. He has declared he is still Ukraine's president, but has lost support across almost the entire country. Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, in further developments, Russian soldiers have reportedly taken over 2 airports in the pro-Russia region of Crimea. Interior Minister Arsen Avakov denounced the move as an armed invasion that's in violation of international agreements. It remains unclear whether the seizure is the initial stage of a larger military operation or if it's to simply stall Ukrainian authorities from exerting greater control over the autonomous region.
We shift our focus to a different subject this time, tourism. Koreans are increasingly opting to vacation overseas rather than here in Korea, but there's plenty to see and enjoy within the nation's border.
And the government is determined to remind them and everyone else of this fact. Our Connie Kim reports.
Take a sneak peek at Korea's best travel destinations. Ahead of an 11-day travel week designated by the government in May, the Culture Ministry and Korea Tourism Association have launched a travel exhibition to give Koreans a better idea of where to spend their vacations. The exhibition kicked off with Korean fusion music, with the Culture Minister, foreign ambassadors, and Seoulites in attendance.
There are a lot of good travel destinations in Korea. We want to inform and promote diverse places so that people can visit different places in the nation.
For me, as the ambassador of Russia, it's of great importance, especially this year, because our 2 presidents last November, when my president, Mr. Putin, he visited Korea, they reached an agreement on the special regime for visits. So I am waiting for crowds of Russian tourists coming to Korea.
From the city of Andong's famous Korean beef to Ulleungdo Island's pumpkin taffy, the exhibition introduces the unique tastes that different regions of the country offer. Visitors were drawn in by the exhibition's National Park booth, where they got to walk on simulated park trails. One feature that highlights the ecology of the demilitarized zone was especially popular, offering visitors a chance to see something they normally can't. While there's plenty to do for adults, there's just as much for children to take in and enjoy.
Archery was the most fun activity, and I learned that Gangwon-do has great scenery and lots to do. I want to visit Gangwon-do.
With plans to encourage Koreans to travel more within the country, the nation's one and only travel exhibition will be welcoming visitors until March 2nd at the COEX Convention Center. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Well, it's been only a week since Arirang TV, Korea's only global broadcasting network, found a new TV home in the United States.
In case you didn't already know, Arirang TV is now available on America's #1 satellite television provider, DirecTV, on channel number 2095.
And our Hwang Jie takes a look at how people in Southern California are enjoying their new channel so far.
Here at this hotel in southern Los Angeles, Arirang TV on DirecTV is available free of charge to guests.
We used to not have the Arirang TV and DirecTV like before, but since we are located in Wilshire and Weston, it's in the middle of Koreatown, it's good to have Arirang TV for the guests.
Starting last Thursday, DirecTV customers in the United States could find Arirang TV in their channel lineup on channel number 2095, as the Korean broadcasting station has been added to DirecTV's programming as a public interest channel. DirecTV, based in Southern California, is America's #1 satellite television provider that competes with cable TV. K-pop lovers Riley and Allison, who are huge fans of Arirang TV's after-school club program, say they're delighted to have Arirang TV on DirecTV.
It's really convenient. We can just turn on the channel and the K-pop shows are already there.
We don't have to search for it on the internet anymore. We can just watch it on TV, so it's a lot easier.
Arirang CEO Son Ji-ye says she's confident the Korean broadcasting station will be able to raise awareness of Korea and Korean culture in the U.S. Hwang Ji-ye, Arirang News, Los Angeles.
Korea has been cloaked under a thick layer of dust that's blown in from China over the past week or so. And analysts say it's the longest period of time that Korea has been under the influence of smog since data started being collected.
And today we examine what's causing the fine dust in the first place and how we can stay safe from its effects with Dr. Chunyun Young, professor and physician from Hyun-bin Medical University. Hello, Dr. Jung. Welcome to the program.
Good evening.
Dr. Chung, it seems like everyone is talking about the fine dust these days. That's the talk of the town. But how is this fine dust different from dust and ultra-fine dust?
Yes, the dust is classified by aerodynamic size. The fine dust is defined that the diameter of dust is below 10 micrometers. The ultrafine dust is the diameter of dust is below 2.5 micrometers.
So what is the exact cause of the dust? We know that it's been ongoing in China as well. So should we point to China as the culprit?
Yeah, exactly. The air pollution is the main source. Carbon exhaust engine, like a diesel exhaust particle, is main source. Nowadays, the occupational and environmental issue is global issue. So we share the air pollution among the Asian Pacific region, including China.
So what adverse effects does fine dust have on our body exactly?
Every dust in the lung could be one of the source of the hazard. If the dust come in human lung, most of dust could be exhaled and excreted with sputum, but not in case in fine dust, because the size of fine dust is enough small to obstruct the airway. So the retention dust could be the source of the pathogens. So it make respiratory disease like asthma and bronchitis.
Well, you know, they say one man's poison is one man's bread, or some would disagree with that maybe, but face masks, they have been selling off the shelves in Korea because of all the yellow dust, fine dust, and all the dust that's in the air. How effective are they, or do you have any suggestions on what kind of masks would be better?
The best mask is disposable and well-fitted mask. If you take a mask, after that mask, fasten your band of the mask and press your nose and make prevent the leakage. And the face mask against the yellow dust is very effective. The coverage rate is above 80%.
So you're saying all face masks do work because their rate is 80%?
Exactly. The ultrafine dust could be leaked because it's so small and could be penetrate the mask. But especially in disposable face mask has a static electricity, so it could catch ultrafine dust and virus. So I want to recommend you do not wash and reuse the once used mask. Okay.
It's those one occasions in our everyday lives where we don't recycle or reuse.
Yes.
Well, other than wearing, face masks, what can we do in our everyday lives to minimize the adverse health effects that fine dust has?
Yeah. In addition, I want to recommend you take enough water, above 8 cups in a day. It promotes mucus secretion and it promotes excrete the dust in the lung.
Well, what about those who are really active outdoors or because of their occupation, they need to be outdoors? What would you advise them if they need to be out there for a long period of time? And perhaps some of them, maybe they cannot wear masks because they need to be running around or they need to be exercising heavily. Any advice for them other than don't go out and stay home?
Well, the best way is to prevent more exposure from dust. So you have to take a proper mask and avoid outside activity as soon as you can.
Right, once you're done and once you come home, it's best not to spend too much time outdoors and find excuses or reasons to stay indoors. And of course, cleaning is very important as well, right?
Cleaning at home to make sure dust
Cleaning
gets
yourself
out.
after you've been outdoors?
Not exactly, because the size of ultrafine dust is so small, so cleaning could be aggravated the airway passage in a room, so could be cleaning could be one of possible source of making more particles. So you have to.
So it actually is not actually advisable to do what we would normally do to avoid other, I guess, impurities. Fine dust would be an exception.
So I think the best answer is just stay home, and especially children and senior citizens, I think that's the answer.
Don't
that's
move
correct.
too much.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jung, for coming in and sharing your insights with us. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
If it weren't for the high levels of ultrafine dust in the air, today would have been a near perfect day.
That's right. It would have been nice to end the week with some clear air finally. Let's find out when we can enjoy this someday weather by turning to Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Hello there, Michelle.
Happy Friday, guys. It's very unfortunate because the ultrafine dust alert that was lifted about 10 hours ago is back in effect in the central region. However, it looks like things will return to normal state over the weekend, giving us some chance to finally enjoy the nice weather. Tomorrow, we can expect some rain in the southern regions, while the rest of the country can expect a cloudy day with highs of up to 12 degrees. Now, going over to the readings, Seoul is looking very cloudy all day tomorrow, starting off the morning at 5 degrees before getting up to 10 in the afternoon. Daegu and Busan will get both peaking at 10 degrees. Now down on to Jeju Island, it's cloudy but warm with a high of 12 degrees. Dokdo makes it up to 6, while Mankumgang tops out at 1. Well, that's all I have for you today. I'm Michelle Park, and have a wonderful Friday evening.
Thank you for that, Michelle. That's all from us for this hour. Thank you for watching. And if you want to wear a mask, as our professor advised, wear disposable ones and do not reuse or recycle. This has been Daniel Che.
And I'm Kim Hyun-ji. Thank you as always for being here with us. Hope you have a wonderful weekend.